I'm Courtney, and I first saw Shinique's work several years ago. But the thing that struck me most was that her varied and dynamic practice of painting, sculpture, video, and public art has recently seen the light of day, so to speak, in several museum exhibitions, most notably in Boston's own Museum of Fine Arts. A graduate of the Maryland Institute College of Art, Tufts, and the School of the Museum of Fine Arts, Shinique is also a native of Baltimore. She is also a current resident of New York State. I can tell you the exact moment that I was first introduced to her work. It was in 2004 at the Studio Museum in Harlem at an exhibition curated by then Assistant Curator Christine Y. Kim called Vini, Vidi, Video 2. It's a mouthful. I couldn't say it then, and I still can't say it very well. In this all-video show, Shinique's work really stood out to me, and this is the work that you see here, Bundle Me from 2004. It was vibrant, and it was materially playful. It was technologically innovative at a moment after the millennium where it seemed as if you could do anything with video. And yet she uses stop-motion animation. She places herself against a white wall in what we assume to be the kind of white cube space. And yet there is something quite humbling about this. The figure is sad and humorous as we watch it tie itself up and end up in a fetal position on the floor. Many things seem to be happening, but something about this video really touched me, and this solitary figure's sort of plight to bind itself and find itself laying down. In the following year at the Studio Museum in Harlem, in an exhibition called Frequency, a show that's often thought to be the second of the adventurous group shows that were curated there, Shinique came with another piece. And this time I was not prepared for it. A work called Bale Variant number 006 showed her to be not only a fantastic video maker, but also a sculptor in her own right. Someone who could make large-scale columnar works that look like columns. Someone who could make these large-scale works, but that were made instead out of cloth, material, and other found objects. I was transformed by the fact that she could move from one space into another. We'll just leave it. Video to sculpture. Over the last 15 years, her paintings have shown themselves to be no less innovative. But as a sculpture studies scholar, I find myself drawn over and over again to the objecthood in all of her works. As Lucas told us, we are here on the occasion of Shinique's most recent performance video, Gesture 3, One Great Turning. As you will soon see, the video was filmed on the site of her large-scale public mural just outside on the Greenway. 7 Moon Junction. This mural, both video and mural, were commissioned by the Gateway. The Greenway, sorry. Gesture 3, One Great Turning is the final work in a trio of performance films that bring together the most prominent aspects of her practice, I think. Collage, soft sculpture, painterly compositions, vibrant color, and of course, dance. Dance has become a key component of Shinique's work because in fact it is a key component of her life. One that this film fully explores to great ends, as you will soon see. Like the first film that I saw, Bundle Me, this one uses movement as a way to move along the motivation of the film. We are entranced by the dancer's very motions, just as we see color, just as we see form. All of these things become wrapped up in how we experience this film. Following the premiere of the video, author, executive coach, and Shinique's mother, Vikara Pfeiffer Smith, will lead us in a group meditation in preparation for the panel discussion. This panel discussion will include Shinique, Gary Pennock, and Vikara. Thank you.
Is this good? Okay. As you know, the act of creation involves body, mind, and spirit. So I would invite you all to experience a little bit of what the artist or any artist may go through in their mind and their bodies to calm and center and bring up that creative energy. So if you take a deep breath while you shuffle yourselves and sit straight in the back of your chair, put your feet flat on the floor, And just allow your arms to fall gently in your lap. Lift your shoulders and drop them. Close your eyes. It's okay. We are all here for similar reasons. Just take a deep breath. And I invite you to see, imagine, a field of colors: red, orange, blue, greens, purples. Just let them dance around in your mind as you take deep breaths slowly in and exhale slowly out. Just allow all the tension and all the stress from your day, any worries, to drift slowly out of your being. And as the colors swirl gently in your mind, relax your body some more. Just relax. Let go of that stress. And begin to imagine what it might be like to be anything that you could imagine. A new job, a new home, a new space, more money, whatever that is. Just allow that to come up within yourself. Whatever that question is, whatever that desire is. Just think about it for a second. And allow the energy to come up from the base of your spine to your solar plexus, to your heart center, up into the center of your forehead, and allow the energy of the red, blue, green, orange, yellow, purple to just fill you, relaxing you, soothing you, and opening your mind to new areas of creativity so that you have clarity of focus, so that your will is strong, and that you may begin to create the things that you desire in your lives. Take a deep breath in. Exhale slowly and completely. And feel the energy of the swirling colors settle in and soothe your spirit. Calm and relaxed, clear-minded, and focused on the brilliance of your future. Take another deep breath. Exhale slowly. And allow yourself to understand that you can be all that you want. You can have all that you desire. And you can create into your lives all that you see as wonderful health, wealth, love, happiness, and joy. Deep breath. Exhale. And allow the swirling colors to come up again, energizing you as you slowly open your eyes, feeling refreshed, feeling enlivened, clear, and focused. Good. Last deep breath. Exhale. And we'll have a wonderful evening and a beautiful rest of our week and a spectacular weekend. Yes? Get home safely. Be well.
ما قدروا الله حق قدره إن الله لقوي عزيز.
Can I start in a very inarticulate manner? Wow, that was great. Thank you very much. I feel like I thought that I knew what what I knew I should anticipate with the film, having seen the first two films. And so I was not prepared, though, I think, for this last one. It has a totally different feel to it. It has a very different tone. The pace is very different. And I wondered if there's something else happening here that you want to talk about that is different between the first, or from the first two films to this third one.
There's a lot that's different happening in this particular performative video. One, it's not live.
Because the first two had been performed.
The first two videos that you're seeing were more of an experience in person, and you're seeing the documentation. This one, we are seeing, it's being filmed and it's aerial, and we're working with Kairos Dance Theater, and you're seeing them performing in a process that is unique to them, and their improvisational structure, and pieces are intertwined with the aerial view and the geometric things with the spinning, pieces that they've performed over and over and over again. And so, but it was such a unique thing too to meet Deanna and Ingrid and work with them, because we work very similarly. Improvising and developing over a period of time an expressive thing and building on that, and then creating a structure from spontaneity and creating in a live manner. The other performances were also more structured, so they could be performed exactly over and over again. So that's one thing. Can you think of other things that are different? This is Gary, who edited the film and created the sound and music, and very much a collaborator.
Well, yeah, part of the process was different because you said it was going to be more abstract and non-linear. I think the non-linear is pretty critical there, because the other ones were pretty much as they happened. So there wasn't as much freedom with time with those other performances.
And that freedom of time, for me, I feel like this is something I can build on and create different worlds out of bits and pieces of other places.
In leading up to this, Shinique and I had several conversations, and in one of these conversations, she introduced the idea that an aspect of tonight would be a meditation, which we have just taken part in. And I thought, from the way that you described the meditation, that it made perfect sense, because you described this as a way to get basically everyone in the room onto the same page. Essentially, it's sort of, clearing your mind so that you can receive this work. That made a lot of sense to me. And then I started thinking about it a little bit more, and I wondered if meditation for you was also a medium, in the way that perhaps dance or material or video, any of the other things that you use are also mediums. And I wondered if perhaps this is something that Vicara might also respond to, in this sense of meditation being something tangible that one works with.
Yeah, I think meditation is something that we all should incorporate in our lives formally as a discipline, but we all informally incorporate it in our lives on a daily basis. A daydream is a meditation. When you're thinking about that project at work and you take that pause because you don't know where it's headed and you're just trying to refocus and get it together, that's a meditative moment. So yeah, I think it's integral in everything we do. So I think meditation itself is kind of an art form, because in that moment you are in the energy of creation. Your body, mind, and spirit, everything is sort of aligned, even in a daydream, which is something we don't think about. We just flick off into some trains of thought. But in those moments, body, mind, and spirit, and our whole being is kind of aligned in the whatever it is we're seeing and experiencing in our mind at the time. So yeah, I think it's really integral and important.
For me, the process of making is a form of meditation in a way, and I guess in defining that as focus with intention and a consciousness, that when I'm writing and tying, there is this repetition, and I'm imbuing the objects that I'm making with an energy. And I feel that dance can be that way as well. And these are very basic kind of ritual, any ritual actually, sweeping the floor, washing dishes, anything that you do with intention can be that way.
How then did choreography in terms of this film work relative to meditation, or in terms of the way that you're describing meditation?
I don't know how to answer that question. I don't really understand the question.
Okay, I think I'm wondering if working with dancers, and I know that you were part of choreographing the work, if there was, in working with other people, how do you then bring forward that sense of the meditative that you have when you create your own objects?
Oh, well, I don't know if it's so much I'm setting out to incorporate meditation in everything I do in that way. It's not so much a conscious act. It is an influence on the way that I move in the world. With this particular piece, there was already choreography that is incorporated, and I can't really speak to the process that was put together, but when we came together, we were throwing out ideas, and I don't know, it's more of a frenetic, it's more of a frenetic meditation. It's kind of one of the things that was inspiring me for this piece was the idea of whirling dervishes and the idea of spinning and moving so freely that you lose track of oneself. So I don't know if I'm really answering the question well. But.
So in everything that I've ever read about Shinique, the concern about where your influences come from always somehow references your mother. And I think it's very interesting that you discuss your mother's career in fashion, as well as the way in which you, as a younger person, were able to engage in that. Now I find it even more kind of interesting, as well as exciting and productive, that you also work with your husband. Can you just talk to us, the three of you, about the process of collaborating over time with each other in different ways? What has that meant to you?
Well, it gets easier with time.
Good.
I was just thinking that when we first started dating, and I brought up the idea of collaborating on something, he was like, no way. I work by myself. So it has gotten better over time.
Yeah, I was a bit of an art tyrant, but I realized that Shinique had a perspective, and like just figuring out how to be creative myself and generally and follow like Shanique's vision on these projects was definitely like helpful. It's not like so much compromise, it's just giving each other the freedom to work in the way that each one can, and to achieve the vision or the vision of the project. So like setting the parameters at the beginning of what it's going to be is pretty important, and working towards that. And then we would meet like once a week or so, and just like kind of give each other feedback. And sometimes I would like hold on really tightly to certain parts, and sometimes Shinique would want certain parts gone for like editing video and stuff like that. So it's you just figure it out as you go along. And plus, I've been assistant of Shanique's for about 6 years, so I'm very familiar with her work and how she, to a degree, how she thinks, and so that's a definite benefit for the collaboration.
Vikara is perhaps her first collaborator, or maybe you think of her as your.
I think I was her collaborator. I was her fit model when she was designing clothes when I was a kid, and all kinds of.
And my pal going around to fabric stores,
which I hated when I was little.
Isn't that interesting, right? With Shinique and I, we just have such a synchronicity about how we interact. Every conversation turns into some ideas and leads us down these creative pathways of some next project or future happening, and we bring in all the elements that we know about, to any conversation we have. It's fashion, it's color, it's sacred geometry, it's places we've been, masters or gurus or shaman or whoever, we've had experiences with. It sort of all comes into play in our conversations. And I know I always leave a Skype conversation with her thinking, oh, wow, and feeling more expanded and more energized. So I get like tons of inspiration from just, us interacting. And always have, even when she was little. She was very precocious, and she knew what she wanted, and she'd say, Mom, I don't think that looks good, or Mom, I hate that color on you. So, yeah, she's always been her own person and had her own vision of how things should go creatively. So,
Well, I think that's really sweet, Mom. Thank you. I feel the same way. When my mom was designing clothes when I was a kid, and you'll see an image maybe come up right here on the left is that was my cousin and a design of my mother's. They were very sculptural, and she mixed not only color and pattern but types of material, like lamé. This is the 70s and early 80s, with faux fur and with chiffon, with leather, and she would crochet these outrageous shapes. And so being around, I guess, dress forms and piles of fabric and things like that, and also my mom has had this long interest and study of different cultures and different religions, and I'm not going to summarize what you've done. You're sitting here, but through my mom, I have traveled the world and participated in ceremony in Ireland and Egypt and New Zealand, and those experiences and seeing sacred circles and pyramids and being around native dancers and different cultures has filtered into my work, alongside being a kid writing graffiti, and so I don't know. And plus, another collaborative thing is that every time I have to make something that involves sewing, my poor mother has had to sew it since I don't know when.
forever, yeah.
Poor mom. She made my wedding dress too. So
that's wonderful. Congratulations. I'm interested in two things that you've said recently, which I think sort of come back to the thing that you just mentioned, which is graffiti, which is often brought up in relationship to your work. And I wonder, what does graffiti really mean for you? Graffiti is something that is, often referenced as this thing that Shinique did as a teenager, sort of I think it is often situated as your first foray into art. But do you actually think of it that way? What is graffiti for you?
It's not my first foray. I feel, I was exposed to creative things since I was little, dance and theater and art. But when I was in high school, which is a formative time. It's when you're becoming an adult and expressing yourself. I went to a high school for the arts, and I think the influence of graffiti on my work is nostalgic. It is the part of my life where I was most invincible and free, and I think that you have to have a steady hand and confidence when you lay something down, because there's no erasing. And later, when I took courses in Japanese calligraphy, I found that is a similar thing when you work with black ink. So it's for me right now why the line is still present, and I feel like it's present in all the work, from the sculpture to murals to painting. This line is holding everything together. And I think it's because it's the way that I can most directly express myself, from here through my arm onto a surface. And I'm writing, it's text. So that's what it means to me.
Was moving into mural making by way of Seven Moon Junction, was that easy because you had already worked on large scale by way of graffiti? You'd already worked directly onto a surface. You'd already worked in public. Was that an easy transition?
It was my third public project, but the first one where the scale was so large and is painting that other people painted it. So it's a collaboration as well. There were 4 young men who we share a sensibility, and they have a very sensitive hand. And it's very hard for me to give over to other painters my painting. But we developed a language and way of talking, and they became an extension of me. With other collaborations, though, you were back to what you had asked before, it has gotten easier too for me, because the more people that are involved, the more you want other people to bring their mind and creativity into the mix, the better it is. And it's taken me a long time to realize that, that things can be even better than how you imagined at the beginning. Sometimes you have this idea and you hold on to it, and that's the way maybe it should go. But when you're working with other people and you have collaborators, to stay open to their ideas and what they have to bring to the table makes it so much fresher and stronger. So it's a kind of a dance of letting go. Maybe meditation helps with that. For sure.
Can you just give us a sense of what aspects of either Seven Moon Junction or of the film are sort of the ways in which the collaboration has benefited this work?
Well, when Gary and I first did say the sound for the first gesture, I had a very rigid idea, and I don't actually understand how to make music. But I asked him to come along and help me make music. I had sounds in my head, and I knew I wanted to sample my breath. But my rigidity made the structure rigid. And it was probably vexing for you as well in the process.
Yeah, I redid the sound halfway through, and we just started over. But we learned from the experience.
Right. And with this, now to this one, there was an essence and an idea of how, what the visual feeling would be, and Gary very much, with the footage that we accumulated, created that vision on his own. So it's really, at the end, so much more beautiful because of what Gary brought to the table. The cuts and where someone turns into another person turning and where it overlaps is all Gary. And I stepped back and let that happen, and then we got together and took notes on where things were slow, and just different weights and balances and things. And then the sound as well. Because the drum took me by surprise. In my mind, there was like this ballet, but and at first I was like, I don't know if I like that, but it makes a lot of sense.
I feel like there's a real harmonious kind of quality to the way in which you all work together. And I wonder if it somehow resonates with something that I've heard you say before, leaning towards joy. I have it on tape. So I do. It's on the internet. No, it's on the internet.
It's on the interweb.
It is on the interweb. It's
so
true.
Then it must be true. Very true. It's online.
What does that mean? Can I also say that in the same sort of breath, you also described your work as being very American, and I wonder what do those concepts mean to you?
Mom? Can I ask my mom to talk about the joy part?
Yeah, I can step to that. Shinique has always been a person. I mean, she came in as a joyful entity. No matter what went on, how sad or how complicated or how whatever the situation was, she would just always, in the midst of like my yelling at her, just kind of break out into this joyful humming and singing and spinning. So I quickly got the understanding that, those old ways of parenting weren't going to work with her. Okay, so because there was just no doing that with her. Okay, so I had to be creative. She forced me to do that. So she brought this strength of joyful spirit onto the planet with her, and I have witnessed throughout the lifetime that every time she does a project or does a piece of art, there's just something joyful about it. And I've witnessed her doing her work, executing her creative abilities, and she's just full of joy while she's doing it. So the joyful part I see all the time, and I see joy when I look at her work. It comes across.
Can I ask you to hold your mic up?
Sorry. For me, thank you. For me, joy at this point is not as easily arrived at. I feel that with each work that I go through, all the emotions that one goes through when you're creating something, it's vexing, painting sucks. Sometimes I feel I suck, and you doubt why you make something, and I go, through all the process of that. But for me, to make work about that would be to leave it there, because I think that painting, all art absorbs everything that the artist is going through, kind of like wine, like sucking up all the herbs and stuff around it, and especially painting. And when someone is pompous, it reads, and when someone is arrogant, it reads, or timidity reads. And I think that if I left it in that place of uncertainty, where that's not really bringing much. I want to take it to an epiphany. I want to, and I use my work for that, to bring myself some resolution in the process of making it, and to maybe have this exchange with the viewer where they're also experiencing that feeling, to have some sort of resonant exchange. So when I say it leans towards joy, sometimes I don't get there. Sometimes it's still lying in melancholy, but because the things I use are, some of them are discarded, and some things are keepsakes of people that, are no longer here. And so the objects I use already have that kind of feeling. So I don't want to lay more of that on it too. I don't know.
The discarded objects, the things that you come into, the found objects are primarily fabrics, right? Clothing, shoes, things that once belonged to someone else, I assume you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Objects.
Yeah. I think I'm probably not the only person in this room who is wondering what's next. What are you working on right now? What's happening next? Or is there something happening with the three of you? Where are you going?
Where are we going? What about that idea last night? Are we doing that? I have, art projects and art shows coming up and things like that. This film is something that I am inspired by, and Kairos Dance Theater, and I might want to do something more in the future, one hopes. And Gary and I have been talking about filming more things on the land, and we have a small piece of property upstate, and last night we were talking about how we could get together and put together an experiential installation event kind of thing. So we don't know if that's happening. Do you want to? Do you want to?
Sure.
Agreement, I think. Yeah. Could I ask the three of you if you'd be open to taking questions from our audience?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah. Thank you. This was illuminating enormously. Several moments during the film, on the periphery of the image, I started noticing the pedestrians and the cars on Atlantic Avenue. And I started to wonder about when we, the public art in public places, who is the public? And the extent to which maybe another version of this could somehow, and I have no idea how, incorporate that environment. Because I was so curious about the pedestrians walking by and paying no attention. Having nothing to do with your piece. I think this is what pedestrians do, or maybe not. But in any event, thinking about that element, in the larger as the context for that kind of work, and maybe for some other works. When you're talking about doing an event, the three of you, somehow maybe thinking about what is the viewer doing as part of that? What will the viewer be doing? Or the passerby be doing? Etc. as part of that event, and how would that inform the event?
Cool. That's something to think about for sure.
Just a real quick question for Gary. I was really interested in the use of shadows from the sky down. I was wondering how intentional that was.
It wasn't something that can be controlled, but I usually.
But a happy thing.
Absolutely, it was great.
Yeah, I usually approach video I think Michelangelo. He had a. I'm gonna mess up the quote, but I'll try. He says, "In every block of stone, there is a statue, and it's up to the sculptor to find it." And I always thought that was kind of like one of my maxims for approaching video.
So it was really, really well done. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I noticed children in a couple of the shots, and I was wondering, or I am wondering, if you're doing anything with young people, and if you are continuing to do something with young people. In the slideshow? Yes. Is that something? I mean, I think it would be great, but I don't know how, as a practicing artist, you really have enough time to also teach young people and bring that spirit alive in them.
When I was here, and we on the Greenway got together with Artists for Humanity, and I hung out with some teens, and also the MFA has the Teen Arts Council, which we did some work together. But I like to work with kids. I've Skyped with classes that have done projects in different cities if I can't come, and I'll do some work in Nashville with kids. Whenever I have a show, I like to do something with kids through the museum, or eventually I'd like to have a camp to do that on a more regular, more structured basis.
May I also add that having seen a good number of Shinique shows through the years, I'm struck by how many children, when you're inside an exhibition, and if you see the exhibitions a few times, you get to see multiple children on different days at different times interacting with the work. And I think that's actually quite unique.
They get me. That's why I hang out with them. They get me more.
I think for a lot of museum educators, your work is a joy for them.
I think, just to chime in here too, again, your work connects so well with kids because a lot of the work that you incorporate, or the materials you incorporate, are from your childhood. So there's that hide and seek aspect to the work that is so, not to put it in this way, but where's Waldo essentially of Shinique within the work. And I think that's my favorite part of exploring your work is defining parts of your childhood and part of your identity hidden behind layers of paint or hidden within bundles of fabric. And I think that's a really exciting aspect of your work.